I just thought I'd take a second to record this video because I'm sure a lot of people are interested in what the heck this is, as I was. And I thought I would just walk through it. So Gary sent a zip file in the Discord today, which is just an add-on that you can load into your S&box editor, and you just gain access to the scene tools that he's been developing, as long as you're on the staging branch, that is, or rather the most up-to-date branch. Once you have loaded that add-on, you can come up here to the View tab and enable the hierarchy and scene views. So you can create a new scene very simply. Just right-click and create a new scene. Test 2 is what I'll call it. If I load into it, it will just be the empty scene. Here we are. There's nothing here. And you can just create objects. It's very similar in nature to Unity. Boom, there we go. You can also come up here and change some things like, the camera movement speed, so you can move a lot quicker in this editor. You can also see some hitboxes for things. You can also see some interesting information. Change the scale of gizmos, all that fun stuff. As you can see, everything's, well, a little weird looking because there's no light. So let's go ahead and add a directional light. This is going to be our world environment light. Create a plane. Make this guy real big. Make him a bit bigger. Still uniform scaling. No separate axis scaling just yet, but Gary has said that he would very much like to do that. One thing you'll probably notice right away is that on the right here in the inspector, everything has components, a set of components. So there's a model renderer, which is what's rendering the actual model itself. And if I actually just run the scene here, it's just going to give me an error, which I don't actually know why it's giving me an error, but I'm sure it's fine. It's very work in progress by the fact it's just a zip that Gary sent. But if I go here, I can actually add a component and say add, let's add a box collider. You can also choose what surface the object itself is. So I'm just going to choose the default surface. And if I run the game again, you'll see still nothing happens because there's no rigid bodies. This guy, I want to give, physics, rigid body. He's going to be affected by gravity. He is not static. And I'm just going to make a few of these guys. And if I run now, you'll see we have gravity. Oh, well, that's actually very interesting. So you'll see here our plane becomes physics enabled when it gets hit. So I think what we want here is we actually want to get rid of the rigid body from this. And I think just because it has the box collider, yeah, the box collider is all it needs. Okay, so the rigid body is if you want it to move. And obviously this is all very up, and this isn't a tutorial or anything. I'm just kind of walking through the workflow so you can kind of understand how this works and like what the heck is even going on. So something interesting you'll notice immediately is with this scene view, I can actually move it off to the right. And if I run the game, we can actually modify our world while the game is running. And, it has a little interesting consequences right now because I presume the new physics engine hasn't been ported over yet. They're in the process of replacing the Rubicon physics engine, and I don't think that's in the current staging branches. I still think that's internal, so the physics aren't going to update proper as you may have seen in Gary's videos that he's been sending in the Discord. So I'm first going to make sure we have saved this scene. I'm going to go into the turret scene here. And this scene is very cool. You'll see I'm this little guy. You can steer, and I can look around. And looking at the hierarchy here, all this really is to make this work is, this massive cube here is just, a parent or a child of the gun. So whenever the gun rotates, it will rotate with it. And I can't edit this in the editor here because these guys are physics enabled and it's not using the new physics engine. But the camera here is completely static. And what we could do is actually just take this camera here and, move him into position. Oops. You can't undo just yet, so there's a lot of easy mistakes to be made, but I can only imagine these kinks will be ironed out by the time this is in the main branch. And now that I've got this camera in a nice little view here, I can just rotate it up a bit. Okay, the angle is a bit cursed. We can just pretend it's not cursed as we drag the camera into the turret, and now as we move, the camera is just moving with us. And it's really just that easy to get stuff done. And just like Unity, though, if I come out of play mode and go back in, all that progress that I just made is completely lost. So you want to be careful when you are in play mode and when you aren't in play mode, because some things will take effect and others won't. So while I said this isn't a tutorial, I do really want to dive into the code just really quickly to show you the meat and potatoes, how simple it is. All of this is entirely C#. The editor itself, the scene tree, the scene sources, the way it all works is beautiful. The class names are subject to change. Currently, things are called game objects and game object components, but Gary has said that game object component will likely become, just component, and things like game object.worldTransform.position could potentially be shortened in some way. So all of this is very subject to change, but it's the idea that creating a component is just as easy as extending a class, giving it some tags so it shows up differently. So you can see here in the component list, all the lights have the light icon. These have different icons for the different collider shapes. And everything is unique. But if you don't define that, it's just an uncategorized script, so to speak, just like Unity. And you can open the C# file, and you can see, you can just serialize a field the same way you could in Unity. It's just the property tag. You have the gun game object, and if I want to reference some object to be the gun, just drag it right in. It's super simple, and this workflow is going to become immensely easy to work with compared to what we currently have, which is insane to believe because I personally already think that S&box's current workflow is better than most. It's really a league of its own, and now to think it's just going to get better is really comforting, and I'm excited to see what happens next.